6:37.
It's for the 23rd.
I blocked myself.
Warming up.
Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, May 11th meeting of the Monomoy Regional School Committee. Call the meeting to order at 6:37. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, and that would be the minutes of our April 27th meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussions, comments? Ms. Ryder?
Yeah, under number 5, norms and protocols under the motion, the last sentence says several members expressed the need for courteous, respectful behavior amongst themselves and to the public pursuant to the norms and protocols. There were other thoughts expressed as well, and I don't think this is very representative of everything that was expressed.
Did you read in the last sentence it says several members expressed the need for... Well, do you disagree that several members expressed the need for courteous, respectful behavior?
I don't disagree with that sentence specifically, but other members expressed opinions that were not quite that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Stowe?
Yes, I specifically made other comments about our lack of skillful adhering, we never accessed that before, the norms and protocols, and I did mention in that meeting about that there wasn't anyone that checked on that or that reminded anybody of that per what the norms and protocols said. So there are some other sentences that should go in there if that one goes in there.
Well, as we all know, the minutes are not required to be exhaustive. They're just required to be accurate.
I don't think it's accurate.
Well, if they're accurate in what they say, you're just concerned that they're not complete, that there's other things.
Yes, but that makes it not accurate. It's not a balanced representation.
Okay. Any further discussion? Approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
That's 2 opposed. The motion passes. We're going to put our public comment aside for a quick moment so that we can have our Chatham Elementary School spotlight. That's part of the meeting.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Ashley Borgia, and this is Jessie Swing. We are both 4th graders at CES and on the student council. Leah sadly could not be here tonight, but we'd like to start by mentioning some highlights from throughout the year in each grade. In kindergarten, they made lots of new friends, learned to read and write to count to 100, and looking forward to an Audubon trip to Oyster Pond in June. In 1st grade, they are going to Rogers Williams Zoo this week, and today they had a concert with Mr. Wrestlers and parents came to it. They are still talking about how great Time Wars In was for Thanksgiving. In 2nd grade, they had many wealthy Audubon lessons and a field trip, which were great additions to our curriculum learning. In 3rd grade, they are learning about the Revolutionary War. They went to the National Seashore and watched the Cedar Swamp Trail, and they're creating board games based on non-fiction books. In 4th grade, we are working closely with the National Seashore in a program called Every Kid in a Park, Climate Change Boot Camp. We are eagerly studying states for our annual state fair. Just this week, all grades benefited from seeing Len Cabral, a storyteller. It was really, really awesome. The way he was describing the stories, it made us feel like we were in them. Also, Superintendent Carpenter came to give us a science lesson on eelgrass. He told us all about the sea life living amongst them. I didn't even know that eelgrass was a thing. He is doing a contest where we write or draw about eelgrass and we get to go on a boat this summer. Thank you for letting us share about our school throughout the year. Maybe we'll be back on the middle school student council next year.
Before you go, could you just say your names one more time slowly so everybody on television will be sure they know who you are?
I'm Ashley Borgia.
Nice.
I'm Jessie Swain.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're being informed and entertained. Grace Boyle from Monomoy Regional High School.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grace Boyle, and it is so nice to be once again reporting all of the great things that happen here at Monomoy. To start off, I wanted to speak about the youth risk survey results that were for this year's high schoolers. Thankfully, many of the statistics have gone down since we took it 3 years ago, and they're lower compared to the state and national averages, but some of the numbers that we saw were still kind of alarming. The administration did a really great job that day pointing out our resources regarding mental health and like thinking of contemplating suicide if you're having those thoughts, like where to go and who to speak to, which was really, really nice. The peer leadership group did a really great job of presenting such heavy material to a auditorium of 500 high schoolers, which is hard to do. But the effect on the students seemed to resound very well, and the attitude has definitely changed a lot. On a lighter note, a group of roughly 10 students successfully made it to China and back home. They spent 8 days there, being engulfed by the incredible culture of the Chinese. Students who went said that being completely submerged in the culture and language was truly the best way to learn. They visited Shanghai, Beijing, and you can tell I didn't go on this because I don't know how to say this. China, I think was the third city. But the most notable part of the trip was probably being able to walk on the Great Wall of China, which was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Monomoy also participated in the first student exchange program since regionalization with Spain this year. Monomoy students housed their Spanish counterpart for 2 weeks around Thanksgiving, and they finally got to go to Spain this April. Over the 2-week trip, the students stayed in Madrid, and they lived with their host families in Vigo for a majority of the time. They were able to form friendships with these kids their age that lead totally different lives culturally, linguistically, and geographically, which is so, so cool. They got to go to the school with their host siblings, go on field trips to things like the El Prado Art Museum, as well as famous cathedrals in Spain. One student, Abby Higgins, even got to go volunteer with their host sibling that teaches younger students how to read once a week. Although living in the enriched and impressive culture was an amazing way to learn, it was unanimously decided that the best part of the trip was definitely the food. Peace Week also took place when we came back from April vacation, which was sponsored by GSA, Human Rights and Stand, and the Earth Club. Each day had a purpose corresponding with the group that was in charge of the day. For example, Human Rights organized Holocaust Remembrance Day, where students were able to make paper cranes during JOSM that are actually hanging up in the cafeteria. You can see them when you walk by. Stan had a singing sit-in for Syria in front of the cafeteria with Mr. Dixon on the guitar, who is ridiculously talented, if you guys didn't know. It was a great opportunity for students to express concern and learn about real-world problems. We are just coming off AP testing weeks, and I can tell you that it's a breath of fresh air not having to deal with them anymore. Most of the upperclassmen were on edge, facing 3, 4. One student actually braved 2, psychology and chemistry, in the same day, which is not something that usually happens. Besides AP Latin tomorrow, we are finally done. All of the AP students especially want to thank the administration for organizing the breakfast that fueled us for these 2 weeks, and the teachers who worked so hard staying after every day. I was after school with Mr. Bates preparing for the history exam until 5 every day last week, and they made sure that we were very prepared and would succeed, which was super nice. The Athletic Booster Club also organized a one-day only mattress sale to help raise funds for the snack shack out by the turf. It was so funny to see all the kids at Brooks Park and at the entrance of the school dressed up as literal mattresses. They had mattress costumes, enthusiastically yelling for people to come in. Although the idea was a bit random, it was very successful, and it was a nice way for the sports to collaborate towards a common goal. Senior Arts Night is kicking off tonight, and following, including performance from the 2 extremely talented leads of the play, Jack Watson and Colleen Cronin, and favorite, summer reading, picking summer reading books, discuss the book that this year, which happened at Mashpee High School. athlete. One of the things that I'm most proud of to talk about that occurs at Monomoy. Jocelyn Hour has been going on for about 2 months and it remains successful. There have been a few bumps in the road, but the administration has been allowing students to voice their opinions about the successes and issues with Jocelyn, which has come to work towards fixing the few bugs in the system. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to exemplify our responsibility as well as the creation of time in our busy schedules to get things done. Lastly, I wanted to put some important dates in the back of your mind for the following month. The spring concert is May 18th and will be absolutely wonderful as always. And National Honor Society has their induction ceremony on May 25th.
Wait, we can go to that.
Yes, we would love for you to come. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Is there any questions?
Are there any questions? Comments? I'm sure we have comments.
That was a very informative, fun-filled pack of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Smile lights up the room.
Good job, Gracie.
Thank you very much.
Go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving slightly backwards to public comment. Is there anybody who is here tonight and would like to address the school committee? Hi.
Good evening. I'm not quite sure I could follow those prior speakers, but I'll try. Good evening. I'd like to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Bob Brackett. I'm before you on behalf of the Howard Police Soccer Club and also as the parent of 2 Monomoy students, a 6th grade boy and a 9th grade girl. I would like to comment on the facilities usage and fees that I believe is on the agenda for tonight. First, I'd like to give you some background on the Howard Police Soccer Club. Just to let you know that was a soccer program that was started by the Howard Police Department as a community policing opportunity to bridge the gap and to work with the youth in our community. The motto of the Howard Police Soccer Club is to grow and develop the game of soccer in partnership with the youth in our community. I started that program several years ago. We started actually at the community center gym with a group of about 10 kids. The reason we started the community center gym is it was the only gym available. We had to run our program on Saturday mornings. We had about a 45-minute window very, very early on Saturday mornings. The director of the community center, Carolyn Carey, and the custodians were very nice at squeezing us in before the program started. And it wasn't until the availability of the merge of the Monomoy School District and the town of Howard being able to obtain the old Howard Middle School and making that gymnasium available to us where we were able to grow our program. And the program kind of grew on its own. We never really advertised the program by word of mouth. It just spread. And I'm happy to say that this past winter, for our winter indoor soccer program, we had 125 kids in that program. And those 125 kids are primarily all Monomoy students. I believe we have less than 5 kids in that program that are not Monomoy students. The program is a free program. We run on donations. We ask any parents that can make a small donation for the program, and we're also, have some local businesses that support us and some local people that support us as well. We do currently run our staple program is our winter indoor soccer program that we run out of the Howard Middle School. Without that middle school, we would not be able to run our program. I believe this is on the agenda tonight because of what was discussed at the town meeting last week in support of trying to maintain and to retain the Howard Middle School for that program. Just, with the exception in the town of Howard and Chatham as well, with the exception of the community centers, the only gymnasium that's available is the old Howard Middle School. The only other gymnasiums are the gymnasiums that belong to the schools. If programs like ours or any other youth programs would have to rely on use of school gymnasiums, we would have to charge fees for those programs that would be counterproductive to providing youth sports opportunities to all the youth. On April 1st, which was our final soccer weekend, we always like to have a big little final playoff push and everything. And as a treat to our kids, we rented the high school gymnasium here. That cost us $764 to rent for the day. If we were to use that gymnasium for all season for our program, it would cost over $15,000, which we could clearly not afford to do. When we rented that gym, one of the things that did strike me when we rented that gymnasium on April 1st was how many of our kids and parents entered that gymnasium on April 1st for the very first time. It was their first time ever going into that gym. It was some of their first time ever coming into the school. And these are some gymnasium. I believe that some of the primary goals and priorities for towns and schools should be to provide services and to not necessarily be in it to make profit. Schools and towns should work together to provide safe and affordable environments for all youth activities. I think it's very important to make the kids in the community and losing kids to school is a real thing when it comes to youth sports. Looking around and talking to many youth sports coaches and parents and kids in youth sports, there are a lot of kids that are opting out of the district because they feel that the Monomoy district, based on their school usage policy and not their youth sports, not schools and using their facilities, that it's not as welcoming and it doesn't feel like they're getting the support that they are. Out of the field turf here at Monomoy program to not go unnoticed to the kids. Long-term effect, the field hockey program, all activities. There's collective bargaining, payers, involved in sports and activities. These are our local youth.
A key just kind of gets passed out and there you go. And I think you could imagine that the town probably doesn't want us just passing out keys, or both towns wouldn't want us just passing out keys for this facility and just trying to protect the building itself too. So.
There obviously are costs to the town of Harwich for your use of the middle school gym, and for everybody's use of the middle school gym. Do you know anything about that? Do you have any information?
They just recently initiated a process as far as the use of their facilities and the fees and everything. And I think they're too early in the process right now to realize what the cost benefits or advantages of that. It just went into effect over this past winter where they started actually renting the facility, and I know they have a budget, for operating budget for that. I think they allocate $125,000 for the operating budget for maintaining the property, and they're hoping to offset most of that with usage fees there. But I do know that their cost setup and the usage fees is extremely reasonable. I can't comment on what the fees are, but they're very reasonable. And even the community center, for what it is, their fees are extremely reasonable fees. I believe if we were able to get room availability space at the community center, which we can't, it's booked solid. I want to say it probably costs us about $400 for the whole year to run that program out of that. It's very minimal cost involved.
And I think the big difference is that community center has somebody staffed on Saturdays, so that there's not somebody that comes in. So that's it's just part of the overall cost. So if we have a youth sports program that's using a building that's already open, we don't need to charge for the custodians. The custodian's already here. If it's a situation where the custodian's coming on and working a day that otherwise they'd be off, then you've got fixed charges that you're having to go and compensate for.
Still.
I just want to ask, is there a difference in fee schedule for Chatham and Harwich than there would be if it was other town usage? Because we've been talking about the taxpayers paying for this, so I'm not relating to the 5 kids that are from somewhere else, but any of the activities that are asked, especially for kids, for Chatham and Harwich, I would hope there is a different fee structure than if some group from Dennis or Orleans or something wanted it. Is that the case or not the case?
I think we have it set up as, in our rates, there's school use, there's town use, and we don't charge rents for those. There's a nonprofit one, and then there's for-profit is how our rate sheet's structured.
Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, is there a plan for, being on our agenda under reports and discussions, is there a more specific presentation being planned for this evening, or?
Miss Isernio's ready to go whenever you want.
Let's do it.
Katie Isernio, Business Manager. Bob, nice to meet you. First and foremost, what I want to say is that based on the online application, we did not know this was a youth sport event. We would never have charged him for the use of the facility if we realized that it was a sport event for the Monomoy kids. It was just, in my own defense, it was, however, after the soccer term.
Futsal.
What is it?
It's futsal. Katie, did you have trouble with that?
So, but that being said, and it was a day, I don't know, I think it was 9 hours that you used the facility, which would not have been a charge for the use of the facility. However, there were 9 hours of custodial time. And we have had conversations at budget time with especially the high school principal, who was really encouraging having a Saturday custodian, but it would mean adding a custodian, because if we shifted the schedule, there would be one less available during the day. So, when we're looking at level staffing budgets, that was part of a discussion, because these facilities are used tremendously, and we always encourage people to use them when we have custodians on staff. Because it is more expensive on a Saturday or a Sunday, because the staff has to come in, and if a couple of groups come in, we share the costs between them. So, it's unfortunate that you would charge that amount. The one time you didn't about that, but I just want to know that the district wholeheartedly supports the youth programs and the use of the facilities by them. So in your packets, I put together a whole building use piece of information. I think what's important is to, Jim's going to drive for me for a moment. I'm going to take you back to, in 2014, we had spent a great deal of time when we needed to determine what the rates were. So we did a comprehensive review of all of the rates of the schools, regional schools, schools on the district, on the Cape, what their fees are. And I'm sorry the print is so small, it was on the legal size. I tried to zoom it as large as I could. So we did a cost comparison, and some of you might remember back in 2014 we brought them. At the same time, we also had to bring the Howard Public Schools charged one amount, the Chatham Public Schools charged another. We brought them together, and we came up with a rate for the Monomoy Regional School District based on what districts were charging for the use of their facilities. And we landed in the middle, kind of typically as we do. So we can go to the next. So just go back a second. So this first graph shows all the different communities that we researched, and then page 2 is the same. And then on the third page, where we were comparing Howard and Chatham rates together to see what the Howard Public Schools and the Chatham Public Schools charged, and then we came up with the next one, a rate for Monomoy, and then if you just flip to the next page, Jim, round it around, and then we can talk. So these are the current rates that are posted on our website that we charge that was voted on in October of 2014, that they haven't changed since. I think one of the things that is essential to know is what we do is we use a program called School Dude, which is an electronic registry to utilize the space. But we also know that something was lost when we went from the paper application. So we're starting to implement that again, because it does ask the questions about fees being charged. And there's some pieces that the electronic program, it's wonderful for a lot of reasons, but it's problematic for some of the narrative that we don't quite get. So we have the rates that we charge, and then we set out what we need to cover the costs for the custodians, or if we need to have the auditorium manager there, if we have the cafeteria and we need serve-safe people and the food service staff have to man the cafeteria. So there is some cost because we have to pay them for that as well. So Scott just asked me to grab, on those long spreadsheets, DY was one of them, and their rates changed a little bit from when we did the program in 2000, the research in 2014, their rates increased a little bit, and then Nauset's rates are the same as they were in 2014 that we set as well.
Those are Dennis Yarmouth.
Those are DY rates, and then the next page has, I'm sorry, I scanned it in as a PDF, and I'm sorry the way that it came through. And then, so, Nauset's are the same that they were, again, on that longest spread. Community center occupied, where, you know, weekly less than us is on Sundays. Let's skip the next one. This one. So this was just, we would just wanted to bring that, you know, this past year, you know, we were charged as well by the community of Howard for, in FY17, $5,480 thus far for the use of Potter's, McPhee Fields, Brooks, White House, Lights, and Bassett. We might get another invoice before the end of the year for them. So we all have fields to maintain and of the buildings are the space vendors. It's for the if their performance is here, and then this charge $25. The custodian time, not, you know, and that we had, this is the custodian, something happened on the turf field.
If you looked at it, used to 18 to that when youth are paying the same tax.
On charging.
Basically, facility, it fixed $600 every business, and maybe twice a year, 18-week experience away, but this is not a package.
I would to thank Karen Silver, who is with us just behind you. I've asked Karen to kind of help be the point person in, you know, kind of steering all different individuals that have been reaching out, so that we can kind of have one coordinated effort on what we would do for you know, for Mary. And next I would like to, I know that Grace brought this up in her presentation, but this mattress fundraiser that seemed like the most unlikely of fundraisers. I'd like to acknowledge Karen Gilmet, our interim athletic director's role in bringing that somewhat crazy idea to us, but that somewhat crazy idea actually generated over $9,000 for the Booster Club, which you know, really helps that club that's very much a fledgling organization, you know, kind of launch and get some fun or some money into their coffers. So congratulations to the Boosters Club for that fundraiser, and particularly to Karen Gilmet for all the effort she put into getting that coordinated. We had representation from all the different sports teams. I believe they sold something like 66 mattresses on Sunday.
And
Who does that in a day?
So it was a great fundraiser. And last but not least, I would like to acknowledge you, Brian. This is our last school committee meeting with you as both our chair and a member. It's been an honor for me for the past 4 years to be the superintendent with you on the committee. I know that when we were having the televised voter forum a couple of weeks ago, that they were thanking you for all of the work that you had done on the finance committee prior to the school committee, and I know that everyone in Harwich and in Chatham, Monomoy owes you a debt of gratitude. So I just want to thank you, and I hope you find better things to do on Thursday evenings in the future.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
And we have a gift.
I already bought a mattress, so...
Brian, all those Masterpiece series that you missed. All those Masterpiece series.
No, he's going to be watching our
This is less than $50, so you do not need to fill out a disclosure form.
Yeah. I report this to the Ethics Commission.
Clearly, it's not a rocking chair.
It's hold that way. Travel size.
Oh, this is cool.
Look at your name on it.
Got my name on it.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow, that's very nice. I really appreciate it. I can't believe so much time has gone by. I believe it or not, we've had some difficult times and scary times in terms of getting the two towns together and approving budgets. We've had some hair-raising events in that regard, and building the school. I was hoping that sometime in the 7 years that I was involved, we would get the heating system to work properly, but there's always next year. And I like I say, I can't believe that much time has gone by, because I've enjoyed every minute of it, and it's been an honor to serve on the school committee.
The sweatshirt on the back says Saturday morning head custodian. It's amazing how everything fits.
Perfect.
There'll need to be a 6-month cooling off period.
You're on the interim school committee before the regional school committee. So although Mr. Carpenter's only been with you for 4 years, several of us have been with you for 6 years, and then your additional year on the interim committee in between. So
7 years. Yeah.
you said 7, he said 4. We figured we needed to describe that.
I wasn't a math major, so thanks again. I really appreciate it. It's very thoughtful. I will wear this with pride, even though my son is still upset that his high school is no longer here. But he'll have to get over it.
And Brian,
Still.
I would like to say to Karen, if you need, I would love to help on anything from Mary Roy. If, I have a lot of time that I worked with her. So, anything.
I have a feeling I talked with a couple of others, talked with Karen Whitgren today and Rich Quinn, and I think we'll probably really focus moving forward with it in the fall. Maybe, try and do some stuff over the summer, get some thoughts together, and then move forward with a real plan, and I would assume we'll have to come to the committee with a proposal with whatever we come up with. That's a question.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It's a huge loss for the system. All right, thank you. Reports and discussions, strategic plan update.
Good evening, Melissa McGuire, Director of Student Services.
Hi, I'm Mary Oldak, the Assistant Principal at Harvard Elementary.
And we're going to present something.
Maybe.
In a minute. I'm happy to be here to update you on the work of the Social Emotional Learning Steering Committee that we formed in January, and to address part of our strategic plan and priorities. So I first just wanted to start with, if you remember, I came before you to talk a little bit about social emotional learning a few months ago, but just to look at an overview in terms of social and emotional learning, which is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So given that, we want to look at the 5 core competencies that we want to begin to, or not begin to because we have been doing this, but really focus on for our children. Looking at their self-management, their self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So those are the 5 core competencies that DESE has set forth in their strategic plan for social emotional learning. And those are the 5 core competencies that we'll continue to work on and ensure that we are providing that education to our students. These are all the benefits of social emotional learning. I'm not going to read every little circle, but schooling in our schools, diversity is something that we really need to pay attention to. Cultural issues are important. And of course, it's for not just in school, but the hope is that with providing this type of education that both in school and out of school and in families that we'll see a benefit. So I'm pleased to share with you we had quite a large group of individuals who volunteered to be on this committee. We formed in January. And I'd like to just publicly recognize the members. Eileen Ahern from Chatham Elementary, Allison Burton from Harwich Elementary, John Herring from the high school, Mary Albeck, who is with me, assistant principal at Harwich Elementary, Sharon Stout, school committee member, Sue Landers, Chatham Child and Family Services, Karen McCutcheon, I hope I said that right, parent, Jill Lombardo, parent, Missy Carpenter, parent, Megan Lampert, ELL teacher at Chatham Elementary, Melissa Brady, teacher at Harwich Elementary, Kristen Hayden, guidance counselor at our middle school, Mary Beth Maloney, nurse at Chatham Elementary, Susan Wickham, adjustment counselor at the high school, Sheila House, Harwich Youth and Family Services, Nicole Ferraritis, parent, Kathleen Gigorio, hard workers. So we established goals for the committee to develop a shared vision to present to administration, review the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's guidance on social emotional learning, review the resources, activities, and programs that will support our students and fit in with our cultural norms, develop a draft framework for implementing SEL across all levels, and develop recommendations to be presented to the administrative team. We've met 6 times this year, starting in January, and these are the activities through each of those meetings that we were able to accomplish. The first meeting was to set certainly all of our goals for the remaining meetings and to establish our vision and understand what an SEL learning plan was. The next one, we did some research, which was nice, so people had an opportunity to read some articles that were published through CASEL and be able to look at that and how we could begin to guide our work. In 3 of the meetings, we spent reviewing what types of curricula were available to support students across all grade levels. So as you can see, that was quite a lengthy process, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So this is the vision that the group came up with. I don't think I need to read this whole thing because you have it and it's available for folks, but we spent a lot of time thinking about what our vision was for social emotional learning and what was really important to us, and ensuring that it really covered all aspects of our ability to work with students, families, and the community. So we're really very pleased with the vision that we were able to develop. That's really small, but what I wanted to really capture here is there are 4 ways in which you can present social emotional learning and to build in a social emotional topic or activity for students based on what you're seeing. There's general teaching practices, how we embed that across the day for our students. There's integration of skills and practices that support SEL. And of course, there's the guidance for the administration to help support SEL in our schools. So what we looked at is the groups broke up into smaller groups and looked at what does it look like currently in the district. And that's a long list. So it was really, really gratifying to see all of the things that we are currently doing and what it looks like. And then from there, we wanted to talk a little bit about what we want it to look like or what it might look like as we move forward. Some of the examples are really looking at having more explicit instruction, being consistent across all of our schools in our grades, integrating it into the general curriculum throughout the day, being all-inclusive, making sure our language is respectful, being positive in terms of developing trusted relationships, welcoming students by name, good news phone calls home, social learning groups for all students, training for all staff, supporting students across the day with SEL, understanding that it is not one size fits all, team building, and creating cultural norms. So those are things that the team, the group, felt was important as we move forward. So what we used as we moved to looking at some of the curriculum that was available for social emotional learning was we relied upon CASEL and looking at their effective social and emotional learning programs. They have two series, one for the preschool and elementary and one for middle school and high school. And within that document looks at all of the research-based and evidence-based programs that have been approved and through peer review and a whole process that gets to that point. So when we looked at that, we looked at everything they had to offer, and then we developed criteria for us to look at it to ensure that it had the following components that we thought were really important. Ease of implementation. It could be embedded across the curriculum. It had a family connection. It was financially affordable. And then it addressed the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So based on the numerous curriculum that we looked at, we identified 7 that we wanted to dig deeper into and really look at whether or not they met those criteria that we had set forth. And based on the 7, we found 3 that really kind of hit the highest mark. So the Likert scale was a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 being poor and 5 being superior. And when we looked at the data after we tabulated each group, so every member had an opportunity to review every curriculum that we had from this list. And then each group would score based on those components. So that's how we tabulated these data. What was interesting is Lions Quest, which is an incredibly comprehensive program that spans K through 12. And I'm not dismissing pre-K, but some of the literature regarding pre-K doesn't necessarily see curriculum being implemented in the pre-K because there are already established habits of mind and other areas that really are social emotional learning, so they don't really see that there's specific curriculum. So I don't want people to think I'm dismissing pre-K. But what was interesting about Lion Quest is that had the highest score of superior, but not in all the categories, which we wouldn't expect in any particular curriculum that would meet all of the criteria. But what we looked at is, the combined scores of excellence and superior really is what we want. We want to have more of the combinations of those criteria we set. So 3 of them, and certainly not dismissing Lions Quest as well, 3 of them came up very strong. And so when we look at those pieces, we want to make sure that now, moving forward, that we're able to really have conversations with teachers and look at how might we now move forward with piloting these curriculum and really being able to ensure that it fits in with what our student needs are and with our teachers' ability to be trained and implement that. And I'll talk a little bit about that for next steps. This is just kind of a snapshot of the three curriculum. The one up on the right, which is the ruler, it doesn't say rule, it comes out of Yale University. And then the second step, and then Common Classroom. So Mary's going to take it from here on the social learning plan.
The next step in the development of our SEL curriculum is to develop the social emotional learning plan, and our task force worked on that the last time that we met. And it's we'll go over the 6 actions that compose that, but it's really based on a template from DESE that has the guidelines and the criteria that we should be considering to meet those 6 actions. The first action is to develop a vision that prioritizes the academic, social, and emotional learning. And our group worked very hard on creating the vision statement at our first meeting and our second meeting, revising it and thinking through it. And so that has been developed, and it is connected with our strategic plan. We're going to be, as part of our action plan, really communicating that through all of the different venues that we have, through our school and our website, our parent universities, our open houses, our staff meetings, school committees, our professional learning communities, professional development. And we're also going to be sharing that out through our staff, through our instructional leaders, our department head meetings. And it really also dovetails beautifully with our positive behavior intervention and support programs that are in place in our elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school. The second action is to conduct an SEL-related resources and needs assessment to inform our goals for the school-wide SEL plan. As part of our initial meetings with the task force, we did do a survey and needs assessment of our current strategies that are in place and the strategies that we would like to improve to support SEL in our schools. It's really important that this survey is repeated every 2 years, that it's refreshed and refocused. And the key to that really is looking at the data, how we collect data, how we evaluate it, how we act on it. And again, really sharing these findings through the vehicles we have with our website and other communication resources. It's also key that this vision is included in all of our school improvement plans and the district's strategic plan. The third action is to design and implement effective professional learning programs so that we can build our internal capacity for academic, social, and emotional learning. When we look towards piloting one of the curriculum or 2 of the curriculum, we're really going to be focusing on the train-the-trainer model to build our capacity with our staff within the schools, and continuing to tap into our existing ongoing professional development that's related already to our social emotional learning, such as our mental health first aid, which is a course that's been running for teachers this school year, and continuing to offer trainings with our community at large and partnering with the community counseling agencies, many of which have been represented on our task force. And key to that will be developing the sustainability plan as we move forward and look at how this is rolled out and how we're going to sustain it. The fourth action is to adopt and implement evidence-based programs for academic, social, and emotional learning across all grades. As Melissa mentioned, we were looking at programs that looked at pre-K through the high school, and some of the programs may have been a better fit for high school, may have been a better fit for an elementary, but we're really looking at that consistency. So we had a consistency of experience for the children, consistency of language. We're going to be looking at how we dovetail that in with our health curriculum and how that's rolled out in the classroom and in the school and weekly concepts through that explicit teaching. And the fifth action step is to integrate social emotional learning at all 3 levels of our school functioning and our curriculum and instruction, being 1, our school-wide practices and policies, and our family and community partnerships. Around the curriculum and instruction, that we have the classroom rules really reflect our SEL curriculum, that it's embedded throughout the school day for the children in the beginning or end of the day classroom activities, that the visuals around the classroom and school really support that. We are really seeing the benefit of this with our PBIS program in Harwich this year with our fantastic expectations, and in Chatham with our Sharks. And then with the school-wide practices and policies, that we have all of the consistency within the handbooks, that everything's interwoven and supports social emotional learning. And finally, the family and community partnerships, that we're really looking for that key piece of family connection, so that the parents can reinforce the language and concepts at home, and communicating that with the families through a variety of means. And our sixth action step is,
that's right.
Yeah, okay. We had, I think the copy you may have in your packet, the numbered list for action 5 may have been duplicated under action 6, so we fixed that. That the action step 6 is to establish processes to continuously improve academic, social, and emotional learning through inquiry and data collection. And so this is where we're looking at just continually being reflective. The task force is continuing to meet, and that we're looking at how the rollout has gone, looking at data, and looking at how to best assess that throughout all of our stakeholders with the schools, the families, the school committee, and the community. Okay.
Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about what's happening. In the report, there is quite a bit happening, but I wanted to highlight a few things. One of the things that the administrative team is doing right now is a book study called Fostering Resilient Learners, and we come together as an administrative team and really reflect upon the practices and the supports that are being offered through this book. It's a fabulous book, and I feel people are really taking away from it things that can be implemented and supporting staff across the buildings. We also have been providing mental health first aid. It's part of a course that's offered to teachers, not only just to receive their 15 PDPs for their recertification, but also, to provide them some additional benefit in this course. We also offered it to parents in the community over April vacation, which was well received. We continue to work with the district attorney's office and keep them coming to school, where we're really working with families that are struggling to get their child to school, and that program has been very beneficial. We also continue to provide the MARC curriculum, which is the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center, in our schools. And we've also are very excited because we are the recipient of the Attorney General's grant. I believe I spoke a little bit about that the last time I presented SEL, that we had applied for a grant. We did receive the grant, so I'm excited that we'll be able to move forward next year. That was specifically for the Bottom Life Skills curriculum that I spoke about a few months ago, so they were very excited and pleased with that proposal. So we did receive $15,000 to move forward on that. And the last thing that we've done that's really going to help support our SEL as well is we created a district curriculum accommodation plan committee. It is something that we are required to have as a school district, and that is a plan that supports all students in their learning needs, and it does have a component of social emotional learning to it, and that is something that we presented to the staff as of today for feedback, and then we will move forward next year in supporting staff to ensure that they understand the different types of accommodations that all students have available to them. And here's just a sample of our continued practices. There were too many to make little pictures and put up there, so I did just kind of provide a list which continues to impress me what is happening in all of our schools. In our elementary school, they're using the SSIS as a social skills screening tool. peace education curriculum, the MARC curriculum, great body shop, brain pop, reflection sheets, think sheets, the second step, which is one of the curriculum that was reviewed in our committee, is also a program that is being used in our elementary schools. Not in all classes, not everyone has been trained, but it is a program that is used. Responsive classroom, social thinking, brain gym, PBIS, lunch bunch groups. In the middle school, they're using the social thinking curriculum, which is the Michelle Garcia winter curriculum, yoga, deep breathing techniques, again, second step curriculum, lunch bunch, great body shop and wellness class, district attorney's social media safety presentation. And in the high school, we're using a program called SOS, Signs of Suicide, that's provided to all students on a rotating cycle, but they get it at least twice and when they're in the high school. Enrichment blocks, relaxation and mindfulness, Your Important campaign, leadership lock-ins, the Jiu-Jitsu club, social language groups, and of course the JASM hour, which has been extremely beneficial for students. So then what are our next steps? So the committee, again, I was blessed and I feel honored to have worked with such amazing people and diversity on our social emotional steering committee. So our next steps really is to make sure we present the work that we have done to the administration and make sure that the learning plan is our next action step with administration and how we start to communicate that across all of our staff in our schools. To develop a timeline for that communication with staff, families, and the community, and then to identify staff interested in being trained in the BOTFIN Life Skills program, because now we have timelines that we have to meet with this grant. And then finally, the committee has agreed to continue participating as members, and we're going to meet 4 times a year, which will coincide with our wellness committee that will also meet 4 times a year, because they go hand in hand. So that's our next steps for now, and we thank you and we'll take questions.
Ms. Stout.
On that committee, and I loved a lot of, most everything that was in this. It's just wonderful, and it's far further than we've ever come for. So that's great. The only small thing that I have that could be a big thing is when I looked at the action steps, nothing was written in a clear enough way to spell out for me that there'll be these programs that we're looking at, there'll be actual lessons in each grade. It sort of says that, but not explicitly. So I'm suggesting that I assume it would be number 4, that area on that action plan. You have something here that says adapt pre-K to high school program that best meets the needs of the students, but it doesn't state SEL specific. And that's what all those programs are that we're looking at. So my suggestion is to say something like to adopt SEL specific curriculum lessons for all grades, pre-K through high school that best meets the needs. So it just would be that little phrase to make it clear that it's not like PBS or whatever that's called.
Sure. And I think, in just looking at the SEL learning plan, of course, it's a draft from a, committee that really came together. And, what we would be looking to do is to refine that and really, develop a timeline and more specific goals around how this is all going to happen. But I certainly agree, because we spent a lot of time looking at the availability of actual curriculum that can be implemented.
Yes.
So.
And if we do, if we happen to, instead of a lot of those programs are like pre-K through 4 or some certain grade levels, if we happen to choose to do a pilot program, to do it for the whole grade level with some of the things, second step or whatever, sometimes they're done with, like so-and-so's classroom. But I would love to see all kids at some grade level, whatever they are, receive the same thing.
I think it's a great point, and that's something we'll, discuss in how we're going to pilot the programs, because I would agree, it would be great to pilot all of those in a way that helps us collect data that supports, really what is working for kids. So that will be the next step of really looking at that.
But thanks for all the work that you both put into it.
Mr. Russell?
I too am very impressed, very organized and clear. My questions are, it might have been in the goal, I saw that there's some grants coming our way after a couple of months of freezing thing. Is that what you're alluding to, that $15,000?
It's a different grant. We received an initial grant through Safe and Supportive Schools, which was part of DESI. They had a grant that was $15,000 available just for Cape Cod schools. So the night I presented, we had received the grant and then they had taken it away. So that was cut. An additional grant came out through the Attorney General's office, and so that was applied for. So that's a different grant from that office.
My follow-up question is this. As your committee reviews the curriculum, as well as regardless of how many lessons, and you begin to pilot, have you got an estimate that the school committee and the superintendent would need to put into our budget?
So I do have the cost for the different programs, and what I would be looking for is to use some grant funds to make sure that, because it's under professional development, we have a professional development grant, and one of the criteria for that particular grant is comes under social emotional. So that's part of really reviewing with the administrative team, okay, here's what we have, so now what are those costs and how are we going to pay for those, for that curriculum. So this particular curriculum, the Botford Life Skills, that is covered under this particular grant, but I would be seeking additional grant funds and looking at what's within our budget, especially under the special education piece, although it's not special education, but how we are going to be able to then afford it. And if you remember, one of the criteria was affordability. So making sure that financially we would be able to support the curriculum.
Good job, Lisa.
Anything else? Mr. Richardson?
I commend you on articulating this process from the groundwork right straight through to the application. And, I could easily follow it. But I also received this information about a week ago, and that afforded me the opportunity to get a handle on it by reading it. And I even had a chance to investigate some of the curricula that was mentioned. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to the committee that all future presentations like this be received ahead of time, 5 to 7 days ahead of time, so that we have a time to read these reports. And as a school committee member, I see no downside in this. And I think it helped me understand your presentation so much more by having it ahead of time. I don't mean to diverse off your topic, but it's important, I think, to have these reports ahead of time. So that's my motion.
I second that.
Further discussion? Mr. Carpenter, I'm going to guess that you don't have an issue with the proposal and the goal behind the proposal. But we've discussed this topic a number of times over the years and requested that...
It stays the same. I mean, I'm sorry, nothing changes.
We've requested that things be provided to us, as far in advance of the meetings as possible. I'm assuming that there are not always going to be, it's not always going to be possible that something that's going to be presented to us can be provided by that number of days. Is there, has there been a specific effort, or have you, the principals, notified different administrators and possible presenters of our goal to have these things as far in advance of the meetings as possible?
I think they generally do try. I know Jim's presentation coming up, Jim and Carla have been collaborating on that, literally, I don't know if it's yesterday or, parts of it even today. So I think, when they can, it's an easy one to do. I think sometimes there are things that are very much ongoing works in progress that become a little more challenging.
I would assume that, if there are things that are beneficial to present to the school committee, but are not pressing for any scheduling reason or decision-making reason, that, there would be occasions where you did receive something that you planned to put on the agenda, 2 or 3 days prior to the meeting. You might consider then deciding that it wouldn't be on that agenda, if it can be put off so as to meet that, the goal of having it out as quickly as possible. Is that a fair suggestion under the circumstances?
Yeah, often.
Practical, is that practical?
And oftentimes, we'll be, I think the way our admin cycle works is we oftentimes have meetings on Tuesday before the Thursday and are discussing things that become part of the Thursday discussions with you.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Ms. Ryder?
I think Donna has a really good point, and she's not the only one that has been wanting presentations beforehand. I think 5 to 7 days beforehand in most circumstances is reasonable, and as Brian pointed out, if something can't be given that far ahead, or at least 3 days ahead, then unless it's something really pressing, it could be put off to the next school committee meeting so that we can receive the materials ahead of time. I am strongly in favor of this.
Ms. Scott?
It seems like that when the agenda is posted would be a good time to have, because if we don't know what's on the agenda, but we get a presentation that may or may not be on the agenda. So if the agenda is posted, and typically it's been posted on Friday afternoons, that seems like it would be a good cutoff time. If you're going to be on the agenda, you need to have a presentation ready to be put on the agenda, and then that whole packet would go out all at once, because when the agenda meeting happens is when it's decided whether or not a presentation is going to be on there. So to me, that seems like it would be a better timeline as a Friday afternoon. It does allow weekends for those who work Monday through Fridays, and it does allow several weekdays for those who don't work Monday through Fridays.
Stop.
The agenda only has to be done 48 hours ahead. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. I can almost never get to it in that time. If it's Friday, I usually can. So what Donna's motion is 5 to 7 days. I'm very for that. I think most of us could get to it if we had that amount of time.
As you all know, it's been practice that the superintendent and the chair and the vice chair meet very early on Friday morning to discuss the following week's agenda, which is 5 or 6 days prior to I'm not sure that Nancy was suggesting that since we only have to post our meetings 48 hours before the meeting, that 48 hours is quick enough, but I think it makes a lot of sense to suggest that the presentation be ready on or about the time that the agenda is presented to us on Fridays. Makes a lot of sense, Ms. Ryder.
That means that the agenda setting meeting has to be on Friday, which it has been, but you don't know what's going to happen going forward. I mean, that kind of says that we would agree that whoever becomes the chair and the vice chair thinks that having the agenda setting meeting on Friday morning or Thursday afternoon, the week before the meeting, is a good practice to keep following. I don't know if all of us agree with that. I think it's fine. It makes sense to me.
Well,
because then it would work.
Yeah, I mean, it started out that way for various of us chairs along the line, that turned out to be a really good time to do it because of our work schedules and children's school schedules. But, it's something that the type of motion that she's made is something that can be enforced by the chair and the vice chair because they're at the agenda meeting and deciding what's going to be on the agenda. So if the chair and the vice chair take the suggestion or the motion seriously, then they can themselves say that, no, we don't approve this being on the agenda because the paperwork's not ready. And hopefully, at that point, if there would be a discussion with the chair and the vice chair and the superintendent, and there would be exceptions made because of something that's pressing. You know, we've had times where we've had to vote on things because we have to pay for something, or a group needs to be approved for a trip because they need to buy the tickets and stuff. So there's certainly going to be exceptions, and perhaps, perhaps the future chair could make a point at the meetings of starting off or at some point in the meeting explaining which items were put on the agenda at his or her approval that don't meet the requirement of the 5 to 6 day. Maybe it would be worth pointing that out at the beginning of the meeting. I'm just thinking out loud, but that might be a good way to handle it. Mr. Russell?
I think it's reasonable. I would myself favor, at least to start off, that the primary document would be strategic plan. That all of those strategic plans, summaries, reports, to me, that makes a lot of sense to have, especially when we're going to vote that evening, which would take a couple of weeks, to have that plan in our hands, that particular...
Or the report on a plan.
Yes, that particular target, page 3, target 1A, whatever it might be, that group of 2 or 3 people who will report would give us a week in advance, or whatever that number, so that strategic plan, we all have a 5 or 6 day opportunity to read it before we arrive. All of the rest, if it's reasonable, if not, Scott has an option. Karen's suggesting she just put it off for the next week. Scott announces that they're not ready over a period of months. I think everyone will get used to that.
I just wanted to add, I agree with Terry. Those kinds of things are what I intend. I just feel having the information ahead of time helps me be a better school committee representative, rather than just getting it cold here and process and asking questions. I just feel I need to know it sooner.
Any further discussion? Would you restate the motion so we...
Make a motion that all topics, all reports be received 5 to 7 days ahead of time.
Would you be interested in amending your motion to allow the chair to exercise some discretion? You made a very serious motion which seems to be fairly strict. And in other words, what's the penalty?
It's put off till the next agenda.
But that you would agree that there are times where there's going to be exceptions to that because of...
Well, I meant like the high school trip to Spain or something like that doesn't require a report or processing information or looking up things online and that. So I don't know how you define that.
Ms. Stowe?
When we have, like, as Harry said, the updates on curriculum, but also, well, this was an update on curriculum also. Sometimes, like the, what is that hour? Jocelyn hour, or any kind of things where people are going to give a report. Usually they're doing PowerPoints, and they have to prepare it ahead of time. Those kind of things take time. Another example would be, usually we're given handbooks that we have to review. That takes a lot of time, and we usually get them a week or 2 in advance, so we can really read them rather than, we don't have any staff to scan them and tell us what they say. But those type of things, not something that comes up in the week that Scott's going to report to us about something new.
I know how to define it. Anything that requires PowerPoint. Yes. Oh. Chair would like me to speak.
If it's all right with Ms. Reed.
just have a question. If you're, and this might, Scott or Nancy or Brian might be able to address this, but if you're setting the agenda on a Friday morning, and then you're requiring that when that agenda goes out later that day, presumably on the Friday before the meeting, that the attachments be all the presentations included, you're presumably thinking that the people that you're putting on the agenda have presentations prepared already to attach to those, and that may not always be the case?
That would be correct.
Okay.
I would say many's the time where Brian or Nancy would make a suggestion on Friday that then has us preparing something Friday,
Which is
Monday.
sometimes where we get rolling
Oh, it's
emails.
our fault. No, sometimes.
No, but we get rolling emails of a couple more things or a couple more things. So my suggestion would be, and I don't know if this is possible, but if you're setting agendas 2 weeks prior, if you're one meeting ahead, and I don't even know that this is realistic, but if you're one meeting ahead, then you're actually giving your presenters a full week to have their presentations prepared so that when you set your agenda, that's, I was just thinking of the timing of that they may not have presentations to attach to the agenda on the Friday that you set the agenda.
I suppose you could try to do the agenda on Friday for not the next meeting, but the following meeting.
That's what I'm thinking, but, and obviously things come up, and you slide things in last minute, and that's fine, but, I don't know.
Yeah. Ms. Ryder.
So if our current chair and vice chair at this time are meeting with the superintendent on Friday morning and they're bringing suggestions, why couldn't they email them earlier in the week?
Well, sometimes we think of them at a meeting. Well, things happen during the week. Things happen during the week. Sometimes at the agenda meeting, Mr. Carpenter reports that there's been some sort of Facebook activity or, in fact, this past Friday, we were advised about the response to Mr. Brackett's speech at town meeting, that there was a lot of hubbub about that, and Nancy and I said, well, could we get a presentation on that this week, because that's a hot topic. Let's get the information out there before the rumor mill churns it, too much. Ms. Stowe.
I think that, I don't think we're all trying to get to a finite thing that's just going to be 100%, but I like what Becky said about setting them ahead. This year, for the first time, since Donna's been on here trying to organize us on thinking ahead and getting some things done, we've made a lot of strides on getting things planned out. So in the spring, we're not so overloaded that we're having 4-hour meetings or more every time. We can spread some of those things to fall and winter. So in that light, I think most things and most PowerPoint things can be done. And if there's a hot topic thing like that, I think we all understand that could get to us 2 days advance or something. But, this would be a huge thing to.
I don't think anybody in the room disputes the goal of the motion. My only concern, as the lawyer in the group, is it's a very specific, demanding motion. Demanding in the sense that it requires a certain thing to happen, which to a certain degree is going to be rendered impossible by facts and circumstances. And I'm concerned that if you pass the motion in its current form, you're creating a situation that's doomed to fail and is going to make people look bad. Well, why didn't we get this a week before? It's a fair question at any individual meeting. Is there a reason that we didn't get this a week before? I think that's it's always a perfectly good question. I'm just concerned about the making it a rule. Mr. Russell.
Going along with this guideline that Donna brought up, what if we just, we could be here for hours trying to determine what's a report, or is it a PowerPoint, or is it my suggestion would be that if we target the school committee, the administrations, and the teachers' strategic plan, it's 14 pages long with 40 or 50 goals. It's going to take a year or two. If we committed a vote at least, that would be presented to us a week in advance, when presenters in that strategic plan would be planning to come before us. That's a good start. Then, with some discretion, the builders of the agenda, the future chairs and vice chairs and the superintendent, they meet, whatever day they choose to meet, they can identify those one or two other projects that are pending versus say, for example, Jim wants to present a 5-minute overview regarding the most recent technology initiative that we've launched. Well, that to me I would need to know that one-page document a week in advance. So there are going to be some things that we wouldn't want the extreme of, I don't want to listen to that because we didn't know about this. But I think reasonably this strategic plan, which is 60% of our task to make certain that has some result in success in the next year or 2 or 3, the expectation now should be that we can get those reports to us with a week notice.
Ms. Schreiber?
I think limiting it to the strategic plan is too limiting. There are other presentations that would fall under a PowerPoint or something like that. And I agree more with Donna and her thinking about where we should draw the line.
Well, without that's why I said discretion. To start off, we would allow the subcommittee, the chair, to identify those things week by week that we also should have a week's notice and see how well that goes. So that the staff, the teachers, aren't overburdened with it. I thought I could make it, but I didn't make it. We're going to postpone it for 2 weeks and see how that works. And move along in the next 5 months, see how it's affected. Certainly the subcommittee can identify with our input what projects are going to be presented to us, and we'll be getting them in as a packet.
Mr.
Exact number reports to us. And if at times that has to get put off, that they do it last minute, so be it. I mean, they can't always be done a week in advance.
Ms. Richardson?
I'm willing to amend it to make it work. But I also feel that we need to do our job, and we need that information early. And I'm willing to say not 5 to 7 days, but I just want a few days anyway to have a chance to read it over.
Ms. Stowe?
I need it by the weekend in order to get it done. That's when I do all my work for these things.
Our secretary has a suggestion.
Okay, subject to Ms. Richardson's approval. Move that the chair and the vice chair use discretion to make every effort to have reports submitted to the school committee within 5 to 7 days in advance of the meeting.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Whoever made the second, will
I'll second it. I didn't second the initial one, but.
Sharon, second.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Okay. Any further beating of the horse? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. Thank you very much for that suggestion. I know that we've brought that up a lot, and appreciate that. That I'm sure that everyone will make their best effort to comply with it.
Or I'll remind
Or
them.
you, as long.
Did we sum up your presentation, and did anybody have any questions? Because I
We
feel like,
thank you, and-
I feel like we kind of
Sneaked away.
because she snuck away.
Does anybody have any more questions for Ms. McGuire? Thank you very much.
Thank you, I'm so sorry.
I believe the next item is staff technology profession. Speaking of putting people off, staff professional development.
It's early.
Hopefully I'm grandfathered in. Okay, Jim Birchfield, Director of Construction Technology, and I'd like to give you an update on staff professional development with technology. I'm focusing on the strategic objective 3, and that's support learners of all ages in a supportive and safe environment. And this is sort of just a little aside that I put in. I was thinking about, why are we doing this, and what's really sort of our purpose. And being an instructional leader, we need intentional efforts at all levels of an education system to guide, direct, or support teachers as they seek to increase their repertoire of skills, gain professional knowledge, and ultimately improve their students' success. So I'd like to sort of keep that in mind as we're going through this, that we're really, our ultimate goal is to really support everybody in the entire educational community and really, strive for our students' success. So the breakdown of strategic Initiative 3C, establish a PLC steering committee to support focus and success of the district's early release time. And to support this, we established a new technology committee composed of administrators and teacher technology leaders from each school. The committee meets every 8 weeks. We discuss discuss and plan ongoing district-wide technology professional development, and with an emphasis placed on early release days and district in-service days. Just a snippet from our most recent meeting. The committee met to discuss the rollout of the new district website and how to support teachers in the use of the new site as a resource and communication tool. Ideas on using upcoming district in-service days for training were discussed and noted. So it just gives you sort of an example of the function of that committee and how we're using that to try and plan that in-service time focused on technology. The Initiative 3C number 3, so we're just sort of taking a deep dive into this number 3 on the strategic plan. We're going to include staff professional development with technology within the professional development calendar, including the use of technology in one-to-one, that's 1 computer per student settings. The professional development calendar with technology training. The current year in-service day trainings. We had new teacher orientation with district-issued laptops. That was the first. So we were sort of integrating technology with the incoming teachers, and that was really that was a nice way to start off, kind of integrating the technology with the new teachers. On that day, we also did MRNS technology training for teachers. We did Aspen and Google Apps training, building-based administrative staff. We did Aspen and Google Apps training for them, and at the high school, did technology training for the teachers. School Hive and Gmail. School Hive is it's a program that's integrated into the Chromebooks that allows the teachers to see what's on the students' Chromebooks in the classroom. So it's a piece of technology that we rolled out this year, and we did some training on that at the beginning of the school year. And because we had Gmail as our new email system, we were doing training on that as well. So those are things that happened, earlier in the year. And then upcoming, we're going to have a new website soon, and we're going to need to do orientation and teacher training for that. We're looking at doing differentiated instruction in a one-to-one environment, and also training teachers on using technology tools in a one-to-one environment. So we have our One to World initiative coming up at the middle school next year with the Chromebook for every student. We have every student at the high school already has a Chromebook. So we found that the real need for technology training will be in that one-to-one environment and just teaching how to differentiate instruction and how to use those technology tools in the classroom effectively. And then we have technology professional development led by teacher technology leaders or technology teacher leaders. And we have one at each school, and MRHS, we got Liz Hoff, and this is a list of some of the work that Liz has done in her role as the technology teacher leader. I don't really want to read off all of this to you. It's kind of a, it's a long list, but basically, just to sum it up, she attends certain trainings on her own to figure out how to use some of these new technology tools, and then she will disseminate that to the staff here at the school, and she'll do that through either what she calls office hours. So it might be during a duty period or a planning period when she has some free time during the day, or before, after school, or during allotted times, when there's some in school. So and then X amount for a stipend, and that means I have to put in X number of hours based on my hourly rate. And I don't think that was the purpose here. The purpose was just to sort of get an idea of just how much time really can go into helping the teachers out, learning technology. And or if you scroll all the way down and added up the column, with all the hours, it would go way beyond, what that ratio of hours to stipend would be. So they're really doing it. These technology teacher leaders, they're really doing it because they love to do this. They love the technology. They love helping other teachers do it. And this was just a way for us to sort of just see, like, whoa, what were they doing? Who were they helping, and how much time did they put in, and what kind of effect does it have for the teachers? Did they see a result of that? So it was a nice way to sort of collect some data and track what was going on with the technology teacher leaders. I'll try and call the data and put it together in some form, more of a visual form, so we can kind of see, the results of that. I didn't have a chance to do that this week, though. School, we've got Matt Barnes. And at each school, the approach is slightly different. I think it just depends on the technology leader and the way that they like to operate. And also, a lot of it depends on how their schedule works. If they have planning periods or not, if they have duty periods or not, if they can make time before or after school. So there's a lot of factors, and I think each school is slightly unique in terms of how the technology teacher leader operates. So Matt gave me a list of the things that he's done. And he tends to do more of these little mini workshops. And so he'll pull people together during any kind of time where they've been allotted group activity or some in-service training. And so he does a lot of Google training. He's very good at that. He's really good with Google Classroom, so he does a lot of Google Classroom training, and that's very popular at the middle school. So there's a need there, and he's met that need, tried to fill that need. And he's very good with Aspen and doing the grade books, so a lot of teachers seek him out for help with Aspen and doing the grading. And then he'll meet with people individually or departments and kind of do these small group coaching sessions as time allows. And he helped with the newspaper production, training them in the software, how to use the software to create a newspaper. And that's basically, I did one integrating QR codes into art instruction. QR codes are those funny little squares with all, you don't really you look at it, but what do those things do? You can't read anything, but your phone can scan it and then, take you to a website that has all the information. So he did some work with teaching the teachers how to use QR codes in their instruction. So that's at the middle school. And at HES, Joe Zvelski, real good, used to implement the map testing, and that's all online. The map testing is online testing. So he's helping teachers navigate the testing environment there, how to run a test and keep it going. And then he provides ongoing support with interactive whiteboard technology in the classrooms and just general technology in the classrooms if teachers need help with something. He's kind of he's in the building, so they can seek him out, and if he has some time, he can go and see them and help them out. And then at CES, it's Amanda Julin, and she's also doing an open hours, and she's also kept a log similar to what Liz did. So it's nice having just a log. You can see what she's been doing. So she keeps open hours before, during, after school, whenever there's time available, that she can be there for teachers. They can seek her out. She's attended the instructional leader training and attended district and site-based instructional leader meetings to plan and provide technology professional development. And she also provides ongoing support with technology integration in the classroom. So if a teacher has an issue trying to figure out how to work a program for the smart board, Amanda can go in and help her out, kind of sort of an on-the-fly situation if she's available, of course, and she's not teaching in her own class. And that's sort of the rub with this is, how do we make the time, if they're teaching their own classes, they have to have time to to do that, and then with whatever free time they have, they're attempting to help the other teachers. So it's a challenge, but from what I can tell, they've been really rising to that challenge and finding ways to help the teachers. We will meet with the group soon and kind of do a debriefing on the year, see how it went, see what worked, what didn't, what we can improve, how we can provide more time for the teachers at each school. But I think it was a really great start to this whole initiative, and I'm really, really happy about it. And then there's always other ongoing technology professional development happening, and this is just day-to-day stuff that happens, just ongoing. So we have embedded video training in all of our Google apps. This is online, so anytime you're in a Google Apps tool, so Gmail or Docs or Slides, there's embedded video training in every single one of those. And a teacher can just simply, I'll just show you real quick. It's not doing it here because I'm not logged into the browser. I'm sorry. But anyway, when you're logged into your browser, the teachers will see it's like a circle up here in the upper right, and it's an embedded video training. So if they have a question, depending on whatever it is that they're working on, if it's this case a slideshow, they would have a series of videos that give them training on the slideshow app that they're working on. So it figures out the context. So it knows that you're in Google Slides, and it would pull up training that's targeted to just that app. So it's really fantastic. They used to just charge thousands of dollars for it, and then Google bought the company that created the professional development training, and then included it in our education package for free. So we're getting this huge benefit for free with embedded professional development. So we're trying to sort of get the word out. I try to send out messages reminding people and kind of pointing out, this is where you can find the training. Seek it out, use it. It's, if you get stuck trying to figure something out, you can just click that little button there, and you'll get a whole bunch of answers right on the fly. So there's that kind of thing that is available to teachers, and I'm trying to always point that out. Aspen also has a whole series of excellent video training modules that teachers can access online. And again, we just point that out to them, send a reminder. Holly's good about sending links to people that help them with online training. And one-to-one training by request, that's people often come to me and just say, can you come meet with my class next week? We're going to try this new tool. I don't really know how to do it. Do you have time to come in and help us get it going? And if my schedule allows, I always jump at that chance to go in there and help people. That kind of training is great. It's kind of a one-to-one, real personalized. I can either work with a teacher directly, one-on-one, or I can work with a group of students or a group of teachers. And it's just really nice to be able to get in there and help them out that way. So it's just another form of professional development, but it tends to be sort of on the fly, spontaneous. And then there's Google certified teacher training that goes on. That's online, and quite a number of teachers throughout the district now are getting the certified training. So it's basically free. They might have to pay $10 or something for the certificate at the end, but the teachers just go through these online modules and get trained in all of the Google apps, and then they get a stamp or a badge that says they're certified Google educators. And so that's a nice one that's available. And then we did a Google certified admin training here last summer, at the end of the summer, and had technology directors from all over the region come in, and we had a company run the training for 2 days, and at the end of the training everybody was certified as a Google administrator. And so all of our technology crew here at Monomoy was certified in administration of the Google Apps environment, so that helps with the managing of the Chromebooks. And the Massachusetts Technology Conference every year, that's a yearly event, and that's a fantastic PD opportunity that teachers and technology people in the district take advantage of. And we send out a lot of email tutorials, just if there's a timely issue with a problem that seems like enough people are sort of having an issue with this certain thing in Gmail, let's say. I'll send out an email with a tutorial. It could be just screenshots, or it could be a screencast, which is a small video clip, sort of clicking through and showing everybody how to do stuff. So there's a lot of this kind of professional development that happens, but it's not necessarily part of our formal documented calendar, but it is there. So moving forward, the goal, again, I just think about what are we really wanting to do with our professional development. We want to be creative, provide opportunities for learning, and finding ways for teachers and others to share strategies and best practices with their colleagues. This includes consideration of how to best use technology and a variety of communication vehicles to provide tips, resources, and support. So, we just need to really, work together, find creative ways to train everybody in. With the technology changing as rapidly as it does, there's always more and more available to us to train teachers in their own time, in their own environment, which is really nice. There's a lot of online stuff that's very helpful now, as well as doing the face-to-face and the organized group professional development. And that's about it. Any questions?
Richard. I have several. Being a concrete person, I need, how does, per year, say at the elementary is where I'm curious.
Right, it would be, you'd have to do it before school or after school. Or if they have any time, they'll have PLCs.
Okay.
And during those periods, they can make time for that. And they also have instructional leader time set aside, and they can possibly use that.
Okay. The second question is, with the two elementary schools, is there criteria that's the same for both schools, or does it just kind of happen based on the teacher needs?
I think each school has its own approach to it based on the needs of that building, because we have slightly different, one building's larger than the other, quite a bit larger, so we have one person per building. So, Joe's dealing with a much larger population, so his approach may be slightly different. He's going to be spread a little bit more thin, possibly, or he's going to have to find ways to pull people together into small group instruction.
Is there any goal to kind of merge the schools as far as objectives of what they intend for the teachers to learn, whether it's a large school or a small school?
Well, I think the goal is to help the teachers integrate the technology into their instruction.
Okay, I saw, maybe twice, I didn't have the report ahead of time to, It said, I believe on Chatham, that they did have the before and after school time, but I didn't see that on Harwich. Did I miss it and it was there, or do they not have it?
I just may not have included that there. I think I just said it.
Do they have Harwich before? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think my last question, you mentioned way at the beginning one-to-one instruction. Is that one person to one person or one person to a computer?
That was one-to-one refers to one computer to one student. So that's basically every student has a computer. So one-to-one is one student, one computer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also talked about one-on-one PD. So there's 1-to-1 and 1-on-1. Yeah, slightly similar, but hopefully not clear.
What's up?
So I have one question and one request. The request is, could you email us all this, so I may have to refer to it again. Same question. I person per, yeah, so that.
This is our first shot.
put this in.
for the
4,000.
On down, absent a full-time person. They have their own tech, all
Do an improvement.
Is there kind of staff, how is this helpful, how?
The expectation measured, did you achieve what the expectations were as they're laid out in the job description? And how do we balance with the different size school? It's really the elementary school really at that imbalance. So, but that's something that we should take a closer look at. Yeah, thank you.
It seemed clear to me that based upon the things that they've accomplished and your comments about the time they're putting in, first of all, partly in response to Jackie's question, I think it's pretty clear they're putting in way more hours than they're required to. And I understand it's partly because in that field in particular, you get people who seem to like it so much that go home at night. These people are putting, ends up being an extraordinarily small amount of hourly pay. And I think we should acknowledge that publicly, that the work they're doing, in addition to teaching their regular classes, is a phenomenal amount of work. And, I think we're very grateful for that, and should be very grateful for that. I have a couple of questions more specifically, because I'm kind of a nerd myself on these issues. I thought it was kind of amusing that some of the presentations that were being presented were in PowerPoint, when we're kind of move everybody into slides as the version of PowerPoint.
It's basically just the version of PowerPoint, but it's all online.
Are they comparable? Can they talk to each other, PowerPoint and slides?
Actually, you can download the Google Slides as a PowerPoint presentation and open it up in PowerPoint. And you can import a PowerPoint presentation into Google Slides. So they're fairly interchangeable.
And the thing about the Google sort of in-program video training, so do I understand that, for example, when you have a drop-down menu, if you were to select an item on the drop-down menu, it would change what the circle is going to be teaching you? I mean, is it just like one class for Google Slides, or is it based upon, which section of the menu that you're looking at the time? Do you know what my question is?
Yeah, it's context sensitive. So, I'm sorry, I'm not logged into the browser the right way. I'll show you right now. But basically, it knows which program you're in.
But also which section of each program.
Right. So if you're trying to do something in the program, it figures out like that piece that you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to figure out how to, CC somebody in Gmail, and you're in that CC box, you'll see videos that are directly connected to that particular task that you're trying to accomplish. So it's pretty smart.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. So it really targets exactly what you're trying to do. So you don't have to spend, minutes or hours sifting through help menus and trying to figure out what you're looking for.
My last technology question has to do actually with the issue of, I didn't think of it at the time, but it might be directly related to the question of how to provide services. For example, in Howard Elementary School, where there's a greater need, but only one person essentially. Those programs that are out there that allow for you to, for people who are just can't figure something out, you can contact the software manufacturer, and with a couple of keystrokes, they can take over your screen and fix the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the type of technology that we have, or would it be worth having that? So, for example, if you're in your place and there's a teacher in the elementary school who's just stuck, just totally locked in, could you take over their screen? And
Yes,
you do that already?
Yeah, we don't do it a lot right now, but we have that capability. And it was something I was working with our technician here at the high school on that. I was telling Dan Cogswell, I said, well, you can remote into the other teachers, to a teacher's laptop, for instance, but the teacher would have to give you permission to do that through the little app that we would use. And so I was suggesting to Dan that might be something that we look into rolling out for next year, so that he doesn't have to go running around the building trying to help somebody with something that he could just do, very quickly from his desk right there, get the teacher back up and running much faster. But we definitely have that capability.
It'd be kind of fun to have the teachers have the ability to get to the student's laptop and take over the screen.
Actually, they do through that Hive School program. That they can see every single. They have thumbnails of all the students' Chromebooks, so they can see what every kid is doing. And if little Johnny or Susie is where they're not supposed to be, the teacher can freeze the Chromebook or lock it down or blank the screen out. Or send them a message saying, get back on task or something like that.
Very, very
detention. Whatever, however they decide to deal with it. But yeah, we do have that capability. And it's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
And it's improving the network.
Cost effective.
Yeah, very much so, yeah, the Hive School is free. So we're always looking for free.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very interesting. 2 major strategic plan updates. Thumbs up. Next up, we have subcommittee reports.
No, we skipped number
What
2.
did I miss?
Number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that was subconscious. No, it was DESE district review next steps. Mr. Carpenter.
Hey Jim, we're going to plug this in.
It's freezing in here.
No, it's perfect. Had to be different, didn't it?
Subcommittee reports.
Subcommittee reports. Yes, I told you we were going to do subcommittee reports. Well, Mr. Carpenter is getting his computer to work. Are there any subcommittee reports? No. Well, that makes it hard to stall then, doesn't it?
You skipped a superintendent's report. Seeing none.
And of course, the next item would be something Mr. Carpenter would also have to be presenting.
Seeing none.
So, and I know that we don't have any action items. Maybe we should move down to adjourn.
Aye.
Or second.
You ready? Oh, look at that. Turning back to Mr. Carpenter for DESE district review / next step.
I was in my office thinking, okay, how do we take a 55-page report and distill it down so that, because the last time I was here, this was quite literally hot off the presses, and I read a 2-page executive summary that talked about the strengths and recommendations and said, okay, it's important that we get into what's in the other 50 some odd pages of this report. So I started to make a PowerPoint and then realized my PowerPoint was starting to approach 50 pages. Well, it's so anyway,
That wasn't effective.
we're 18 pages, but it's what I've done is I've just gone and grabbed each of the sections and just kind of put it there. I won't go read through everything, but this is just sort of a quick overview. When DESE came here with their district review team, there were 6 areas that they were looking at: leadership and governance, curriculum and instruction, assessment, human resources and professional development, student support, and financial and asset management. DESE identified challenges and areas of growth in only 3 of the strands: leadership and governance, curriculum instruction, and human resources and professional development. DESE identified only strengths in the areas of assessment, student support, and financial asset management. A quick summary of the challenges and areas of growth that DESE identified. And leadership and governance, and we'll come back to each one of these in more detail a little bit later here. And leadership and governance, DESE identified our challenging area of growth as the district is only beginning to establish a culture that regularly uses student performance and other data to determine priorities that are measurable and time-bound. In curriculum instruction, Their challenging area of growth for us was in observed classrooms. The quality of instruction was inconsistent across the district, particularly in areas of critical thinking, differentiation, and high expectations. And in human resources and professional development, the challenging area of growth was the district has not achieved consistency in the implementation of its educator evaluation system. So for each of the above, DESE's made recommendations to address each, and the administration has been discussing action plans to bring those recommendations forward and to address each of these challenges and areas of growth. So I just want to kind of get at sort of a summary strand by strand, and I think one of the things I know when I first looked at the report, I kind of looked at it, oftentimes the same way I think some of our teachers look at evaluations. It's you see the negative things and you don't see the many positive things. And I think the thing to emphasize here is DESE did see many positive things, and the positives that they bring up outnumber those areas that we need to address. And there are some serious things that we need to go and look at and address. So. A quick overview of the assessment of the strengths findings. In assessment, DESE said that the district uses a range of assessments to collect student achievement data and to disseminate the data to staff and families. The district has some structure to analyze and use data to make decisions and to develop programs and services and some supports for professional staff in using the achievement data. They have a number of areas that they highlighted, saying that interviews and document review indicated the district uses a variety of assessments to collect student achievement data, that the school and staff and families and students have access to student reports on achievement and internal reports and external review findings, that the school staff and administration have some structures to analyze and use data to make decisions. The district and school leadership have used data to develop some programs and services, and that professional staff members are supported in using student achievement data. In the student support strength findings, they note that the district has policies and procedures and practices to support struggling students. The key bullets that they have under that are all schools in the district have processes to identify and provide interventions for students not performing at expected achievement levels, that the district has a range of programs, structures, and staff to support students academically. They also noted that the district has policies and practices for both student attendance, effective transitions from one school grade level or program, and timely equitable access to the quality programs for homeless students. The specific things that they bring up under that is the district has programs to support staff and to support students' non-academic needs. The district provides equitable access to quality programming for homeless youth. Under the financial and asset management strength findings, DESE notes that the district has developed a well-organized system of financial and asset management that is fiscally sound and transparent. The bullets there that they bring up are the district's current budget document is comprehensive, the budget process transparent, all stakeholders are involved in the development process. Interviews and document review indicated that the district's budget documents are available to all stakeholders. The budget provides sufficient staffing to support for the district while exceeding net school spending requirements. The district maintains control over spending and follows regular protocols with respect to audits, fund management spending. The district has developed facilities management and capital plans that are building specific and district-wide. And lastly, the district school buildings provide safe and secure learning environments. Then under leadership and governments, they note the strength findings are that the district has established a strong organizational foundation for the district. The district leaders and town officials have worked cooperatively to establish a sound fiscal basis for the district. The district leaders and the town officials meet regularly to discuss mutual concerns and to solve problems. That the district has created a climate of openness and trust with teachers, The district has built a cohesive leadership team. Document review indicated the district established priorities by organizing work around common strategic objectives and initiatives, and that the district school leaders agreed that strategic plan has focused the district on teaching and learning. They also note that school leaders agreed that the development of the strategic plan is an important step for the district, and the school committee unanimously supported adoption of the MAP assessment in order to ensure that the district can set measurable goals and gauge progress towards them. In terms of the challenges and areas of growth under this, as I mentioned before, they noticed that the district is only beginning to establish a culture that uses this data to look at student performance to determine priorities that are measurable and time-bound. And the specific areas that they note under this is that the district has not systematically used data to establish priorities, and that planning documents do not contain measurable objectives and temporal parameters. So DESE has a list of recommendations that they have here. They say the district should continue to analyze student performance and other data and systematically use the data to inform its planning. Under the leadership of the superintendent, a working group with a wide representation should analyze student performance and other data and use this analysis to inform strategic planning. The strategic plan should include the district's mission, vision, goals, priorities for action. The strategic plan's performance goals for students should drive the development, implementation, and modification of the district's educational programs. The strategic plan should be used as a tool for continuous improvement. The superintendent, principals, and program leaders should develop specific strategies, timelines, and clear expectations for the use of data district-wide. Ongoing targeted training in the collection, analysis, and use of student performance data should be provided for staff in each school, grade level, and subject area. And lastly, the district and school leaders should systematically incorporate student assessment results and other pertinent data into all aspects of policy, prioritization, improvement planning, the evaluation of educational programs and services. So in terms of action steps that we have been doing and have been discussing, I think this is the one area where DESE was looking at that we are very much in the process of doing that, and I think they were struggling when they were writing the report, noting that we have launched the MAP, this MAP testing, but haven't had a chance yet to really start using it as the benchmarks. And conversations that we've been having at the admin level is we're reaching now the end of the second year of a 3-year strategic plan, and as we look forward into that next strategic plan, we need to really look at using our assessment data. We have now this MAP testing data, and when we look at setting school goals for next year and starting to think of that strategic plan or looking at school improvement, then we should be looking at these MAP testing results and saying, okay, when it comes to reading in a particular grade level or math within a particular grade level, what's the thing we're going to be working on, and how do we hope to see these scores boost, so that we should be able to go and use data to go and show that we've moved the ball, not just presume that we've put in professional development training and the ball's been moved, but we're actually tying it back to the data itself. So the conversations have been looking at starting this summer at the admin retreat, starting to look forward. We know that that next strategic plan is coming, but as we start to develop our own goals that we set out for next year, to have, now that we have this tool in place, we have our baseline this year. Now we can start setting those benchmarks and those targets that we want to hit for the previous year. And I think that's one of the things that that the state kind of understood when they were coming in here. The state assessment had changed, the district was coming together, but that wasn't a use They acknowledge, they have been going on. And curriculum findings that they note. The district has developed curriculum maps and other curriculum resources that are aligned with 2011 Massachusetts curriculum frameworks and has established structures for continual review and revision of curricula in all content areas. The key bullets that they bring up, the district has developed curriculum maps and other curriculum resources that are aligned with the 2011 Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, which incorporate and go beyond the Common Core state standards. The district has established structures for continual review and review that they bring us across in high expectations. And they note the characteristics of effective instruction was generally highest at the middle school and consistently lowest at the high school. They note, in terms of the big bullets, in observed classrooms across the district, instructional practices that reflected elements of effective instructional design or promoted high expectations vary among the levels. Their recommendation, the district should identify and articulate a district instructional model, communicate this to the full educational community, and support teachers in its implementation. The district should convene a representative group of teachers and administrators to define characteristics of high-quality instruction. Once a model of instructional practices is identified and defined, district administrators should develop a plan for sharing instructional expectations with staff. Teachers should be provided with appropriate guidance and feedback as they implement the model. So this really was probably the biggest focus of this past Tuesday's conversation with at our admin meeting. We've already begun a process, and Dr. Blanchard has been working with each of our academic or educational councils, which are the teacher leaders and department heads, looking at the instructional inventory that DESE had and comparing it to what we thought we were doing, and really starting to unpackage what effective instruction, what these characteristics of effective instruction should look like. So the goal here, I would say, is that we need to, and the dates here I put on thinking of what's next, what are the next steps that need to happen for us. And when I say us, I mean the administration and the school committee. So we need to work with our teachers to accomplish we can, it would to align the tool in how, part of the evaluation process, back, because their colleagues, I think, is that we good, and the last area, or the last strand that they brought up is human resources and professional development. The strength findings that they bring up is the district has established policies and practices to recruit and hire qualified professional staff. They notice the bullets under that interviews and documents reviewed indicate that the district has established policies and practices to hire qualified staff, and that the district attracts quality candidates by appropriately compensating staff and by providing leadership opportunities for teachers. The other strength finding that they had is that the district has created a culture that strategically supports continued professional growth and development. The bullets under that, the district provides a climate of professional development that is conducive to adult learners' needs, that opportunities exist for teachers to take on additional leadership and responsibility, and the last one, that professional development offerings are differentiated. The two bullets that they have is a review of the personnel folders of 17 teachers randomly selected across the district, and all four principals indicated that in most cases they were missing systematic growth-oriented feedback. And the second one is that the review team did not find evidence that trends from classroom observations are used in the design of professional development or to identify educators' potentials for new roles and opportunities. Also, the district does not appear to have a mechanism to evaluate the effectiveness of professional development on instruction. So the recommendations that they have here are that the district should develop policies and practices to effectively promote the culture of growth-oriented collaborative supervision and evidence-based evaluation under here for the quality skills and regular wishes and expectations on the frequency, quality, and feedback as it pertains to, again, the characteristics of high-quality instruction that they focused on in the previous strand. And that superintendent and curriculum coordinator will monitor the frequency and quality of the feedback provided by the principals and assistant principals to supporters and teachers. And that going through.
But you broke it down. It's very thorough.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, now that we're in the identified loop for DESE, and they've given us their recommendations based on this 2 or 3 days, how does one get out of that loop? Do they give us another visit and then review our only created action steps, or?
The answer is they will come down and they've extended the, we'll come down and go over next steps with you or review your next steps. They don't come back for a second scheduled visit, let's say. I think the ultimate hope is that from them is that the district sees improvement and there's no want or need on their end to come back down. If you're not improving, then or you're heading the other direction, then DESE may come back to reevaluate. But ideally, they're hoping that through this, there's a growth that happens that.
Follow up. What's the established data points of improvement? Have we agreed on those? Like MCAS? What do we need to?
I think some of the key things that the department's looking at, and at least when I was speaking with the chair of the visiting team that came here, his interpretation would be that our MCAS growth was stagnant when they were looking at those numbers, and that would precipitate them looking. So I think they're looking at things like MCAS data and looking at graduation data, and basing is the district tracking in the right direction. Again, I think the parallel there would be they're taking a concrete number like map data and saying, okay, here's where you are. Did things improve? And if so, I think they're happy and don't come back.
Ms. Richardson.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear about the summer retreat and to look at ways to improve. My own personal fear here is that test scores, this MAP testing or whatever, are going to be looked at, and that's how the teachers will be judged, as according to how their class scores on these tests. That scares me a little, and I hope that's not going to come to fruition. Because what they did identify is how do you determine if instruction is in critical thinking, differentiation, and high expectation? Is there a model or a way to evaluate that? Because that's what it's all about.
And I'd say yes, and I think the parallel from the conversation that we were having Tuesday with the administrators, in past years we would talk about, okay, this year let's go and focus on, when we're getting into classrooms, student engagement, and have conversations about student engagement, meetings with the teachers that, this year this is one thing that we're going to try anytime we're in to give you feedback on how engaged students were. I think I'm kind of looking at this in my head and thinking, okay, here's a relatively small set of crystal clear, anytime we go in, here are these characteristics that we're going to comment on. And the reason I brought up how it starts to meld into the collective bargaining process is that we have an evaluation tool that we use in TeachPoint that, that if we're going through a process to come up with a shared set of things that make for effective teaching, and this is what we're going to be looking at, that it makes a lot of sense that that's what's in this shared, that our tool matches what we're looking at or looking for.
Okay, I do think there are other ways, but I just don't want teachers having their evaluation rely on test scores of the students. And I hope that they get the encouragement from administrators, a dialogue, if you will, of what can be changed, how can I do this different, how can it be critical thinking activities, rather than, this test score, you're out. I don't know, I just hope, I'm scared, I'm afraid for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's not the intent. Yeah, that's what we use. I don't think map testing doesn't show up in the, when they talk about these, characteristics of high quality teaching. That's, if, it's kind of an if-then. If these characteristics are in place,
so there is criteria
then
to evaluate teachers on the critical thinking skills?
Yeah, and that was part of our,
right.
So, we that was the focus of, we have a woman that we've been working with over the past year, a former superintendent at Niagara, who was sharing with us, I think like yourself, she had been on a number of these review teams, and was sharing with us approaches that she and others have looked at to look at the critical thinking piece of this, or to look at differentiation.
He's working on this now. We'll back to the school committee on.
It's also.
That copy. No. Sorry.
I have a couple of determined priorities. We haven't been here long enough, it seems to me, to have enough of a database to form that conclusion.
Well, let's just say how it's phrased now is much better than how it was initially phrased. And I think the way the state initially looked at it was it's not happening, and I was responding back to the state. I think that using kind of being want and looking at what were the conversations, it's like ours and that Heather isn't happening.
How teacher evaluations are going to happen in terms of, instead of just being critical, there's a process of improvement. Instead of just telling a teacher you're not doing this well, it's sending them to, somebody to help them do it better, which I thought was a tremendous, type of evaluation. Are they suggesting that that's not being as effective as it's designed to be?
I think if we were tying it all together, if you look at the things that they were looking for, in the 17 teacher evaluations that they looked at, were we giving any comments on critical thinking or differentiation? And so it's or were we just saying, it was, if I kind of loop back to this concept of engagement, students were well engaged while we were focusing on one thing, but or not providing feedback that said you did this well and there was some challenge, or how can you do sort of like I saw that that there was some critical that I saw that most of the discussion focused on 3 students in the room. I hope that next time that I'm in there, that that 80% of the students will be involved actively in the discussion, or 100% of the students, and that the next time that you're in, because they're looking at the file, and then the next time that you're in, that you're actually looping back to the comments of before, and that you're kind of bringing it back and saying, okay, you did, I saw that you improved by X% on the student engagement, or I saw far more critical thinking in this lesson than the previous lesson, growth.
Great. But when I think about teacher evaluations and this report, on this aspect, when I was trained to be a teacher, we were the, quote, sage on stage. You'd be standing there lecturing for the majority of the lesson, something, whatever they were being taught, as a part of it afterwards. But now, there's teacher lecture. So if you've got a 45-minute lesson, for instance, and somebody's in there 10 minutes, they might not make it in there for the beginning scaffolding or whatever the 16 things are, and they might be seeing a lot of participation. So we wouldn't be getting so many check marks on those things. Those things wouldn't be evident. It would be all participation, or maybe some to the teacher going around and helping kids if they knew it. The difficulty.
I think when this niche, or that, and I think my worry sometimes is that the more automated we make things, and that that we have Teach Point as our tool, that that a teacher or an administrator can go in and type into this Teach Point tool and shoot it to the teacher, and the teacher can make little comments and shoot it back, and that there's that we through all this technology and automation sometimes lose the face-to-face, and I think that's something we have to continually fight against the machine, so to speak.
Thank you.
And we have about 10 minutes before we all turn into pumpkins.
Do you have any additional items on your superintendent's report section of the agenda?
Well, I have my Eelgrass presentation. I'm just going to bang out really quickly for all of you. Oh, no, just that. I think my superintendent's report, just shortly, I just want to thank all those that came to our town meetings in both Chatham and Harwich. I think if I reflect back, Brian, over the time that I've been here, with you on the committee, I know that we walk into Harwich Town meeting and it would be sort of like brace for, it's like, okay, who's going to have to go up to the mic, and how many people are lined up, and how many questions are we going to have to answer, and to see the support that the schools are getting at the town meetings, both in Harwich and Chatham, I think it was great. I think it reflects well on where the district has been heading, and I just want to thank folks for that. I did, in terms of Eelgrass, I did sneak out of Chatham's town meeting to run over to the Harwich Selectmen's meeting to give my Eelgrass presentation at sort of a more adult level, in part because I am somebody who believes that there's an intersection between the schools' need to educate the populace on issues, and this is one of those that just happens to be in my wheelhouse. It was probably the most fun I have had since I've been in Monomoy, and it was also interesting for a high school teacher to be in a room with about 100 kindergartners. I have a new appreciation for kindergarten teachers.
Recognize someone for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on adjourning? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. We're
Brian
out.
is free.